Hello, and welcome to We Live for Saturday, your favorite college football podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike, and with me, as always, is your other co-host, John. John, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. No major complaints here. Got some fun plans for tomorrow. I am taking my fiance, who has never been, to the great Minnesota get together. We're going to the state fair.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice. Love
Yeah.
that.
It's huge. It's a big deal. Obviously, we got to initiate her in the traditional Minnesota way and bring her to the state fair and have her try all of the absurd, ridiculous, amazing, and tasty or not so tasty foods. We got to do that.
Absolutely. Whether she loves them or they make her stomach ache or
Yeah.
both.
Or both. You kind of need both. Otherwise, are you really experiencing it?
Think so? Think that's
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I can see that.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. And then
Gotta make it real.
oh, yeah. Well, and then I plan on, I need a photo op when I'm there. And, there's like that whole farm animal section and whatnot.
Right.
And
You can
so,
see you can see an animal birthed.
yeah, you can see that. You can see the pigs, you see the cows, like all
Yep.
that kind of stuff. But there's like
All of them.
there's a particular pig though that I'm really like I need to see.
A
And I'm gonna
pig of
make
some renown, you'd say.
yeah. I think it definitely is. It definitely is. There's a lot of historic um, importance behind this, and
Sure.
I think I'm gonna make sure I get a picture with it. And I believe it's called Floyd. I think that its name is Floyd. Floyd, I think, of Rosedale.
Floyd of Rosedale.
Yes.
That's the pig, the 98-pound bronzed
Yeah,
pig,
that's the
awarded
one.
traditionally every year to the winner of the Minnesota-Iowa football game.
Yeah. Which, Minnesota won last year, and fair and square. So that's the way
Yeah.
that's the way it goes. Yeah. So
So
I'm
you're
looking
going to
forward
get
to
a
that.
picture with the pig. That's what's
Yeah.
great about college football is that the rivalries live year round. You can be at the fair doing something, just getting fried food, totally, unrelated. And look, there's Floyd of Rosedale, and you can get your picture taken with him. Only at the Minnesota State Fair.
That's right. In 2024, that is where it lives. So I will be there. It's going to be great. Lots of just fun stuff. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. What about you, man? How you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing well. I'm really busy. It's a lot of things going on right now. I'm excited. I'm going to go to the lake one last time this weekend. One
Wow,
last
one
time,
last one.
and then
Wow.
it's over cuz I'm going to be too busy to make it over Labor Day.
Hmm.
And honestly, between you and me, Labor Day weekend is the real beginning of college football. So I feel a little off if I don't watch a bunch of college football over the Labor Day weekend.
That's true.
So
I
I
get
think
it.
that's important to do. And it is 1 week from today, John. We will kick off the Big Ten football season.
That's so wild. That's wild, man. Like it's gone by.
Right?
It's flown by. This summer was quick. I but like I'm kind of I'm okay with it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad that it's finally here. I'm glad you get to go spend some time up at the lake one last time. Do you ever get there do you still get up there every once in a while in like the fall or the winter just to kind of get away?
I like to go in the winter.
Yeah.
I like to go. There's Detroit Lakes has a celebration in February called, I want to say, Polar Fest or something to that effect. I
Okay.
can't promise that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
But they have traditionally a polar plunge, which
Excellent.
I have participated in. And I went when it was, like a new event and it was
Mhm.
kind of like just like getting off the ground. It was great because you would jump in and then you'd come out and then there'd be a warming thing, like a warming house
Yeah.
that you had all to yourself, and you'd go in the warming house and you dry off and put on your clothes, and they bring you the clothes, and then you're good to go, and you walk out and it feels good.
Mhm.
And I love how big it's gotten. It's great.
Yeah.
But the last time was not 2023, but the last time I did it was 2022.
Okay.
And it had gotten so big this time that it had a YouTube star sing the national anthem before it.
What?
This YouTube star who goes by, I think, the Midwestern Mom or
Okay.
something like that. And she's
Interesting.
like a Minnesota person, right? This is a
All right.
Minnesota personality, I guess, on the YouTube. And
Okay.
and it was this huge thing. So when I did it then, when I got out, my buddy and I, after we went, because you go in teams, so you jump with your team.
Sure.
So like we jumped with our, with our team, and we come out, and I look at the warming area, and it is filled like pillar to post
Oh no.
with, buck naked men, right? And I just thought, like, how am I going to get in there and get out? Like, this is going to be terrible. So I was like, as they handed me my clothes, I was like, I turned to my buddy and I was like, how far away is your apartment? Because he lives, friend of the pod, the Brad, lives in Detroit Lakes. And he's like, it's 7 minutes away. And I was like, okay, I can make it that far being this cold. And so went there, took a shower, like actually had, warmed up, whatever.
Wow.
But yeah, man, polar plunge. It's God bless everybody who went in that warming house, but I just was not going to try to slip in there. It just looked really, really crowded.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, good. I mean, I'm glad you're still making it up there in the wintertime. I remember a few times when we would hang out up there too. It's beautiful. So no matter what time of year it is, really. So it's good.
It is great. But in the summer, you can get away with going to any bar. In the winter, the locals look at you funny when you show up at the wrong bar, like the bar that they consider a local bar. And they're like, what do you do? You're not from around here.
That's
and I'm
true.
like, I kind of am. I've been coming to this lake my whole life, but like, it's true. I'm not from here and that I don't live here. So
I think didn't it happen to us at the Sunrise Tavern?
It very much happens at the Sunlight. Yeah.
Yeah, the Sunlight.
It very much happened to you at the Sunlight, which I've been going to my entire life.
Yep. Got it. I remember that.
It was like a family restaurant when I was growing up.
Yep.
Not just a bar.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Well, we should talk about some football.
Yeah, we should get into it.
Yeah, we got a lot to cover here. I did want to mention before we really dig in deep though, buddy, friend of the pod, Big Ten Ted, just started this whole new thing called Big Nation, which is fantastic. I've been watching him since 2020, since COVID when he first started, and I was watching everything because that's all I had to do during COVID. And so it's really amazing to see how far he's come and how he's built this thing into what it is now. And I strongly suggest anyone out there go check it out. The production value the production quality is incredible. I personally think it's reminiscent of what you see for people out there who watch Josh Pate. It's like that, but to me, I think the quality is even better. And I'm not just saying it because I'm biased because of Big Ten. I think he's really he's taken it to that level. So check him out. Big Nation, Big Ten Ted. He's great. Really knows his stuff too.
Big Ten Ted is doing some awesome stuff. So yeah, definitely check his work out. He covers the whole league in depth, which I respect a lot, that he covers the entire league.
Yeah.
And I don't always agree with his prognostications, but I do respect that he covers the whole league and then he does it in depth and then he gets you all that information. So he's doing a lot of cool stuff at his channel, and he's even going to be on the sidelines for the Minnesota-North Carolina game to start off the Big Ten season next Thursday, a week from today.
Yep. Yeah, it's a big deal, man. And that just goes to show you like how much hard work, if you put into it, you can make this kind of stuff happen and you can do really well. And he should be proud of what he's doing. I just felt it deserved a shout out just because I've seen it happen, grow into what it is over the last 4 years. And congratulations, Ted.
Yeah. Congrats, Ted. And we'll continue consuming your content because it is great stuff.
For sure.
Right on. All right, John, there's wow, I was almost made a whole musical reference, but I decided not to go there. There's some trouble in Iowa City. Yeah,
I know the reference. I got it.
But it doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right.
Okay.
So, little trouble in Iowa City with our good pal, friend of the pod, Kirk Ferentz.
Yeah, totally friend of the pod. Loves us.
Absolutely. Listens every week. He's got it on the background right after. Yeah. So Kirk Ferentz, John, has been is doing a self-imposed by the University of Iowa, serving a 1-game suspension after, and it's widely thought that it's related to him tampering with Cade McNamara when Cade McNamara was still a Michigan Wolverine. So that is wild. Kirk Ferentz will not be for the opener, I believe, against Illinois State.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be tough, where I think they're favored by double digits for sure.
They got to be favored by a lot against Illinois State.
Oh yeah. So it's a slap on the wrist, but he's doing it. He's doing the time, which is just one game. I'm not sure. Is he going to be allowed at practices that week?
That's a really good question because he shouldn't be.
Agreed.
Like, right. If it's a real suspension, then he should not be allowed at practices. If you let the guy, that's like saying that a baker can't participate and you let them bake the whole cake and then they leave and someone else presents the cake. That's what you're doing on game day. You're presenting the cake. Here's this cake we baked. And yeah, you're going to make some little adjustments and you're going to put on some icing or whatever. Right. But the cake is baked. Like you've done the work. So yeah, Kirk Ferentz, if he's suspended for a game, then he should not be able to go to practices for that week. Absolutely should not. I think it's not a real suspension if he can go to practice.
Yeah. I mean, I won't be surprised if he is at practice, of course, but I agree.
Well, yeah, Jim Harbaugh was. They let Jim Harbaugh go to practice, and that was for cheating.
Yep.
And this is just for tampering, which is also against the rules.
Yes, it is.
And you shouldn't do it, but at the same time, it's 2024 and virtually everybody does it. So it's a conundrum. I just want to, before we go any further with talking about tampering and the implications, John, I just want to say that, this isn't your older brother's squeaky clean Iowa Hawkeyes anymore.
No, it's not.
There's a little more of an edge to it. So you've got Kirk serving a 1-game suspension for tampering. And before that, they self-reported violations after with the Caden Proctor thing when he came from Alabama to Iowa and then memorably went from Iowa back to Alabama. So they broke some rules in relation to that, which they self-admitted. And then also they had some players implicated in nobody important, or one important guy actually, implicated in the gambling scandal last year. It was mostly Iowa State players, but I think it was defensive tackle Noah Shannon.
I believe so. Yeah.
Ended up, lost his last year of eligibility.
Yep.
So it's interesting, man. I never thought I'd live to see the day where Kirk Ferentz was pushing the envelope, but maybe he feels like with the way things are changing, he's got to really, push it to keep up. And he probably does. He's probably right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a little funny that how there's a lot of fans out there who, and not just Iowa fans, who are praising Kirk for coming out and self-admitting and self-imposing, and that he's like, oh, he's got this is he's maintaining his dignity.
I'm sure it's totally what he wanted to do.
Yeah. He's maintaining.
He woke up one morning and was like, Kirk, you're living a lie. You got to come clean. And he said, by God, that's what I'm gonna do.
I'm an honorable man.
Yeah.
This is what Iowa stands for. I gotta be the example. I'm sure he was told that he had to do it, and I don't think Kirk really cares one way or the other. Really, obviously, he knows it's a slap on the wrist. It's not really going to cost him anything.
If they wanted to make a statement, they would have suspended him for 2 games, and he'd be out for the Iowa State game because Iowa State's supposed to be pretty good this year.
Yeah.
And Kirk Ferentz absolutely needs to win that Iowa State game if he wants, Iowa to be taken seriously as not just a Big Ten contender, but as a college football playoff contender.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can't drop that one in the offseason to Iowa State because you're slow getting going and then think you're going to bounce back. And to be fair, Kirk has dominated the Iowa State series.
Yes, he has.
Dominated it.
Yep.
So I don't expect him to lose that game for any reason, but there's a reason why Beth Getz only had him sit out the opener.
Mm-hmm.
If Iowa State was the opener, there would be no suspension.
Yep. Yeah, I believe that, and that's, that's fair. That's, and the thing is too, and I know we've been over this before when it came to the Jim Harbaugh thing, and just a lot, it seems like over the years in like my fandom of watching Big Ten football, it seems like it's always Big Ten teams and programs that get into trouble. And I'm just not seeing, you cannot convince me. There's no one out there who can possibly convince me that the SEC has not been guilty of as much or probably more infractions over the last how many freaking decades. And multiple.
Definitely more.
Yes, like it has to be. You cannot tell me they have not been cheating. And I think and I know the whole thought process is that, the mentality in the SEC is like, you don't rat each other out. And that precedent was set.
But we know what happened with Cam Newton and Johnny Football and like any other number of players. Like whom are we kidding at this point? Like, come on.
Yeah. It just bothers me that is never addressed or talked about, or even when there are little things, infractions that come out, it is silent. Nobody talks about it. ESPN does not make a freaking comment. I get why they're trying to protect their product, but still, like if you're going to be a sports journalist and actually be have some integrity in your journalism, you would report on it, because that's what you're supposed to do, and it's not even just ESPN, it's everyone. And because everyone's in on this and protecting the SEC for some reason. And I don't get it. I don't understand it. I know that this is the Big Ten self-reports a lot. That's what they do, or probably get told on by other programs or whatever. That's just the way it's been here. But and so there's something to be said for that. But it just still bothers me. You can't that it just seems to be predominantly Big Ten programs that are the ones getting in trouble year after year with this kind of stuff. And that's all you hear about.
No, you're absolutely right. And you don't see serious investigations in the SEC into obvious wrongdoing at all. And you know what? To his credit, Miami, Ohio coach Chuck Martin came out, I believe, just today. And they said, "Oh, you lost your kicker in the portal." And he goes, "I didn't lose my kicker. I know where my kicker is. He got stolen by Alabama."
Yeah.
He's like, he got tampered with and stolen by Alabama. So there are some coaches who are finally being like, enough is enough. I'm going to call this out. But nothing's going to happen to Alabama.
No. Ever.
There's not going to be any repercussions for the fact that they clearly tampered with the Miami, Ohio kicker before he was in the portal.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, it's just not going to happen. And that's the problem, is the inconsistency, right?
Exactly.
Like, I'd be okay with it. It'd be one thing if they just said, okay, everyone's tampering, that's the way it is, and didn't enforce it at all, right? But then they're going to enforce it. You're going to see enforcement when it's something like, or I know Iowa self administered this penalty, but I'm sure they have an assurance from the NCAA that this is going to be enough, right? If the NCAA thought it would need to be more games or something, then they would have made it more games. Like they've got to go ahead from somebody at the NCAA, like, oh yeah, one game, that's good enough. Thank you. Thanks for doing that.
Even though everyone knows it's more or less a slap on the wrist, it's just the fact that it is made into such a big spectacle across all of sports, of the whole collegiate atmosphere. And that's kind of what I guess, like, it just makes it look like it's the Big Ten is like constantly doing things wrong or screwing up or making mistakes. And I just don't believe that it's not happening in the ACC, in the Big 12, in the SEC.
Oh yeah. Yeah. John, I think I was in 9th grade the first time I had a football coach, and not the last, say, win if you can, lose if you must, but always, always cheat. So it's a sport with a long tradition of cheating, going back to its inception, and all the way down the line. So I'm not surprised. I'm like, am I disappointed? Yeah. Like, I don't want to see people blatantly trying to cheat. But at the same time, if everyone's cheating, then you kind of have to cheat. I really didn't set out to defend Kirk Ferentz here.
No, I didn't either. But
Oh
it had to
man,
be said.
I was like, I'm gonna come down on Kirk. I'm gonna hit him so hard. And then like I really put it in perspective, and it's like, what is Kirk Ferentz doing that every other coach in the Big Ten isn't doing?
Yeah, yeah,
Like let's be real.
it's true.
Every single Big Ten coach is tampering with somebody's best players every year.
Yeah, some more than others.
Some more than
But-
others for sure, but
to some degree.
everybody's doing it to some
Yeah,
degree or another.
Yeah. But it's not just it's the entire. It's all of college football. It's
Oh
everything.
yeah, all of college football. I'm just framing it the Big Ten because we cover the Big Ten, but it is all of college football. And you're right, the SEC is not getting. They're not getting busted for their wrongdoing at all. It's not impacting them. They're not getting punished for it.
I don't remember the last time
it openly.
Yeah.
No big deal.
When was the last time that anything serious happened in the SEC? Was that Cam Newton? That was the last time I remember any big fuss over some kind of issue.
And Cam Newton, nothing happened. He won a national title.
Exactly. So I didn't see any repercussions, and that was how long ago that happened. So I haven't heard a single thing since. And
2010.
Yeah,
2010. He won
probably. Yeah, sounds about right.
Something like that. Yeah.
So I don't understand how they can go. Basically, let's just say it is 2010, 14 years, and there's not a single incident anywhere. They're just all running just a tight ship.
Just sterling, clean, upstanding. I mean, there have been some things. I think Hugh Freeze got busted for some violations, and there have been some coaches. I don't want to say nobody's gotten whatever, but you haven't seen any kind of punishment. Like you haven't seen a lot of coaches sitting out games.
Yep.
You definitely haven't seen teams missing bowl games or like postseason or anything like that.
Yep.
Which you used to see.
Mm-hmm.
You used to see that as a punishment.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just different now.
It is. Yeah. Well, that's all. I didn't intend to defend Kirk Ferentz either, but at the same time,
oh man, it's like last year we spent all last year defending Iowa. And it's like we're both Gopher fans, and we're like telling everybody how good Iowa is and telling everybody how good Michigan is. It's just, man,
we don't want to do this,
but we will. But we'll do it because we want to be real with you.
That's right. That's what we do here. We don't pander to anybody.
No. Well, I'm not above pandering, John.
To a degree.
I'm not above it. To a degree. I'll pander directly to our actual audience.
True. I'm not
going to pander to like every single fan base. Definitely, we're not going to do that.
No.
But we will pander directly to the people that are already listening because we appreciate you. And if you are listening, please like and subscribe to the video. And if you're on an audio platform, leave us a 5-star review.
That's right.
All right, John, we have made it to episode 6, the final episode of our Big Ten preseason previews.
Wild.
I know. And game started in a week. And here we are at the end of our previewing it. And then we go. And I love this. Honestly, it's so fun to do because now we've done a deep dive on every single team in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And I feel like I know them so much better than I did before. And it's going to turn out I was wrong about a bunch of stuff because it is true every year.
Yep.
But we know a lot of things too that we're going to find out are true as well.
Yep. Yeah. No, it is exciting because there's definitely, and it's also a refresher course of the people that are still there that I'm like, he's still, okay. I thought he graduated. I wasn't sure about that.
I know.
Okay. So I'm just,
I did that a bunch today. I actually did that a bunch
too.
in this episode in particular where I was like, oh, he's still there. I thought he was gone.
Same. Yeah. So that was exciting. That's good to see. Like it gave me, because these last 3 teams here that we're covering, there's not a lot of high expectations for any of them.
No.
But doing a little bit of the research, I'm like, well, I could see some potential here. Like,
right?
And this is again why we continue to make the argument that the floor in the Big Ten is a lot higher than what people think.
It's so high.
These teams may not win a lot of games, but they are going to be in a lot of games.
And they're going to be tough. They're going to be problems.
Yes, because they have
absolute problems.
Yep, they have some serious firepower here and there, on both sides of the ball. They can have some. I don't see any particular team that I could say in the Big Ten that's like, oh, they're just bad. That's just a bad team.
Nope.
I can't.
Nope. I thought that team was going to be UCLA,
Yep.
but then I saw UCLA's receivers
Mm-hmm.
and was like, oh, they have 3 big time receivers and 2 of them are going to be NFL guys for sure.
Yep.
So like even the team projected that we have projected to go be last in the Big Ten has serious and a good quarterback, has serious weapons and can hurt you.
They
And
can upset somebody.
And it's probably going to win some games. Exactly.
Yep. If you're not prepared, you go in there thinking you're walking in that this is just going to be a cakewalk. They can take you out. So yeah, there's good teams throughout the entire conference. I'm just amazed at how high the floor has risen within and the coaching. I mean, and it really comes down to that, man. I think
the coaching is so elite in this in this conference now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is top to bottom. It is the best collection of coaches in college football. I think even better than the SEC.
Yep, I agree.
Especially with Mike Leach gone now, departed from us, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just not as deep, I don't feel like, in the SEC quite as the Big Ten, where you have the only coach where I really have so many question marks is Walters at Purdue, and that's just because he's a first-time head coach.
Yeah, well, him and Deshaun Foster, but I think
Deshaun Foster,
yeah, but I still think that they have some pieces that if they click could be really good.
So, absolutely. Those are teams that can absolutely do some damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, let's get into this.
All right. So we'll start off with the Northwestern Wildcats. Our Northwestern contributor is at B Winey. So it's at BWEINY, and it's Ben. So Ben, appreciate you. Thanks so much for your help with the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Ben is great for all things Northwestern. So please, give him a follow. And it's, he's good for all things related to the Cats.
Yeah, he really is one of the most active Northwestern people out there on Twitter that I've ever seen. He engages a lot. He knows what he's talking about. So definitely, if you're having a hard time finding Northwestern fans, find this guy, and he can probably point you in the direction of other ones.
Yeah, we were having a hard time finding Northwestern fans. It's been tough.
Yep.
So we really we appreciate it for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, first question. Now that you've seen how your team did in the portal and how spring went, what's your expectation for this season? What's your projected record for 2024? Says the lack of strong expectations after a surprisingly good 2023 is great news. Respect is rat poison for our program. Says he's estimating 6-6, but because to project higher would almost certainly require a 3-0 non-con. Miami, Ohio won 11 games last year, and Duke owns us, so I'll project at least 1 as a loss. Said if we get to 5 big wins in year 1 post divisions, he'll be pleasantly surprised. Rank the following position groups and how strong you think they are comparatively. Went with DBs, DL, linebackers, wide receiver, running back, QB, special teams, tight end, offensive line. Which players are the best at each position group, and in order of the rankings above, starting with DBs. Coco Azama, Devin Turner, Najee Story, Aiden Hubbard, Xander Mueller back once again, Kenny Soares, Bryce Kurtz, Frank Covey, Cam Porter, Joseph Hyman, Mike Wright, and even listed Jack Lausch. Okay. AJ Henning, Thomas Gordon, Caleb Tiernan, Jordan Knox. Which players who are going to play this fall are unproven or proven to be questionable? Unproven, Lausch, Covey, Mac Uline, linebacker, proven questionable. The entire offensive line, aside from Tiernan, Hunter Renner, the punter.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't as active as... How did the transfer portal go? Which portal players will make the biggest impact this season? Said they're not as active as most because of the admission standards, and it compounds the problem being on a quarter system. Wright raised the floor of the QB room after Brendan Sullivan transferred. Well, Helinski technically provides experience, but he's in a quasi-mentor player role, not really pushing, so Wright was definitely needed. Says lost a few grad transfers in the secondary, but that's also a position group they've been the deepest at. They weren't heralded gets, but they improved their offensive line simply with volume through the portal, adding guys from USC, Colorado, and Texas Tech. Lovelace, Bailey, and Keeler, respectively. Another skill position ad would have been nice, but they're just hoping for the best from Tate Crane, the wide receiver who put up numbers at FCS Truman State. Which members of the coaching staff are in prove-it mode this year? Will these coaches be fired if things don't go well for their position groups? Honestly, don't have anyone on a hot seat. They have a new OC promoted from within for DC and several new position coaches, so they're fine. That's always nice for a coaching staff to know that the pressure is not on.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about your head coach heading into 2024? Says the honeymoon period will end at some point, John, but they're hoping that it's 2025 when the roster really feels the effect of the defections in the wake of Fitz's firing. Says Braun is unproven as a program builder, but everyone starts out unproven, which is fair. He's a good fit for the job. As for embracing the uniqueness of Northwestern within the conference, the concern is more about institutional support for Braun than whether or not he's capable. Which is always interesting and yeah, always something at a place like Northwestern you have to question for sure. Besides QB, in your opinion, what position on your team can least afford injuries? Said he's counterintuitive because of how the NFL treats them as fungible with little value, but he says running back. And I don't even think Cam Porter is that good. Love him as a rep for the program, though. Says offensive line is probably right with them, but they will probably struggle regardless, so less height to fall off from. How well is your team set up for the short and long term in the new big conference? As far as winning the conference, no shot in either frame. But as far as building consistency with a shot at the college football playoff at large, they're in favor of revenue sharing instead of Wild West NIL, for sure. We have mega donors who will fund projects, just not a broad community chipping in continuously. And that is the problem. There's just not that depth in the Northwestern. We talk about depth for teams. Northwestern doesn't have enough depth in their fan base.
Yeah.
Partially because Northwestern has so few students, and of that portion of students, not most of them are there for the academics and don't care about sports that much.
Yeah.
So that's a problem as well. And it being a smaller school. So yeah, Northwestern, the depth of the fan base is definitely something that is obstacle for them to overcome. That is unique to that school in the Big Ten.
Yep.
What will constitute a successful season this year and how well you set up for that? Says 6 wins would be a successful season. Set up for where it's about a 50-50 proposition. Thinks the schedule makes a strong start imperative. Says it's something Fitz notoriously struggled with, so they're hoping September proves that change can continue to be a good thing. All right, John, thoughts? Let me just say right off the bat, John, last year wasn't a football season at Northwestern. It was a Disney movie.
Yeah, it was.
The put-upon assistant coach is forced to take over as the boss leaves in disgrace. The team is expected to be terrible, but somehow Braun turned a plucky 2-10 projected to be team into an 8-5 reality and a bowl win over Utah. It was a tremendous success.
It was wild. I mean, I don't know the last time. I don't know the last time I've seen something like that. And it truly was. You're absolutely right. It was a Disney movie. It was incredible. And it made me a believer. I have no reason to doubt David Braun ever again. And
no,
I know that, of course, again, this year, there's not a lot of high expectations. I think a little bit more than 2 wins, though, this season. I've heard more often than not.
Yes.
Maybe like 3 or 4, but still. And that has to do with Braun. And I've heard a lot of people also just saying that too, like, but maybe he'll win 6. Like, who knows? Like, we don't know, because maybe he's a miracle worker. Maybe, and for whatever reason,
he's got the magic pixie dust and turns water into wine. Fitzy did it. Why not Braun? And it's something about Northwestern, man. Just taking recruits who really aren't at the same level as the guys they're playing against and just squeezing every last bit out of them.
It's incredible, and it's not fair. Frankly.
No. No, why can't you be our Vanderbilt? Why must you be so competent?
Oh, God. I mean, I know they have really, really down years, but man, like, how do you have good years so often? I don't understand.
So often.
But no, I think there's pieces here. Obviously, the most glaring thing is that offensive line. That's really scary. And that would be for anybody. I think there's definitely some skill position players. I think Mike Wright has the potential to be a pretty solid quarterback. We've already seen what Bryce Kurtz can do, AJ Henning, but without the ability to run the ball, it's going to be really, really tough. But they didn't have to run the ball last year, and look at what they did.
That's true. But last year, here's my elephant in the room. Ben Bryant was a star last year.
He was.
He was a flat out star. He carried that team on his back. He had them competitive and winning games. They had no business winning.
Yeah, true.
So to replicate that, I feel like they need that kind of playmaker from the quarterback position because, like, you know, Cam Porter is back at running back once again. He is fine. He's fine. He led the Wildcats with just 651 yards rushing a year ago. I just don't love him as your starting running back for a Big Ten team.
No, he goes down too easy.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of fight after that first hit.
He just doesn't have a lot of juice.
No. The thing what I think they're hoping for is that Mike Wright is going to be able to use his legs a lot. And I think that they're hoping that that's going to be able to open up a lot more within the game. And maybe if they can put together anything on the offensive line and they can improve at all, maybe open up that play action pass and, work in the option game. So we'll see, I think Mike Wright can be a competent quarterback. Like I said, he's got a couple of receivers that are pretty solid. We saw what Bryce Kurtz can do firsthand. Which I don't ever want to remember that again, but we got to talk about it.
Let's just move on. The new season. The new season. But Kurtz and Henning can play a little bit.
Yes, they can.
They're better. And Northwestern struggles to find playmakers at receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So having a couple guys who can do some things is a positive thing for them, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm just not high on their running game unless they work Mike Wright into it and they can scheme some things up that way. Otherwise, I'm not sure offensively, but,
my question is, can the speed back Joseph Hyman, he's a shiftier back. Can he inject a little more playmaking than Cam Porter? Can he maybe take that baton and have Cam Porter be the second back and become that main back? Because I think that is something that could elevate the offense if he's that kind of player. I don't know if he is.
Yeah.
I flat out don't know if he is or not. I just know he's going to get a lot of reps. And if he gets a lot of reps, like, what can he, what is he going to be able to do?
Mm-hmm.
I worry about the offensive line. It's a little patchwork. It's a bunch of transfers. It's a bunch of guys who it didn't work out at other places for one reason or another. And then kind of one guy to build it around.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not sure. I'm not sure that's a Big Ten level. And you alluded to this. I am not sure if it's a Big Ten level offensive line or not. That's my biggest question with them.
I'm with you. I'm not sure either. So I feel like it could be a little feast and famine. It could be some ups and downs, or it could be just totally terrible. I mean, if you can't give Mike Wright any time at all back there, then it could be a problem. But
it's hey, go on.
No, but I was just gonna say, I had a lot of these. I feel like I said some of the same stuff last year, and here we are.
We saw what happened, right?
Yep.
Their new offensive coordinator, Zach Lujan, is fresh off of winning back-to-back FCS national titles at South Dakota State.
Mm-hmm.
And Lujan is, John, get this, a 2017 graduate. Will immediately be the youngest coordinator in the Big Ten. So get used to that storyline being echoed in every Northwestern game this year.
Yep.
Zach Lujan, youngest coordinator in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And they're going to hit that with every time they're on TV.
Mm-hmm. Is Braylon Allen
going to be like when Braylon Allen was 17?
I think he's still like 17, that. Right? Like, is he
forever? Braylon Allen's 17 forever. Forever and a day. The defense, though. The defense, John, could be better than I thought it would be going into this preview.
Yep.
They've got new DC Tim McGargle, but he's going to run the same system Braun ran last season, because why would you, that's Braun's baby. He's going to run his system. His fingerprints are going to be all over it. That's what has gotten him the success he's had in his career.
Yep.
The Cats should be decent at defensive end with Aiden Hubbard, who had 6 sacks a year ago, which is good, not great. Michael Kilbane will start the other side after a promising True Frosh season. Richie Haggerty and a couple other guys will contribute there. At tackle, they got Najee Story back, who had a decent year last year, and he'll be joined by Carmine Bastone, a former walk-on who played in all 13 games last year and had 26 stops, so he can play a little bit as well. And Brendan Flakes will back them up. Linebacker group led by rockstar Xander Mueller. John, how many times did we talk about Xander Mueller last year?
Every time we talked about Northwestern.
Like every time we talked, literally every time we talked about Northwestern.
Yeah.
I can't remember the game, but I remember watching a game last year and I was kind of like sleepy for some reason. It had been like a long week at work that week. And I was like, pull it together, Mike, like watch this, like focus on this football. And they were on the goal line, and it was like the play, 3rd or 4th down, and he forced a turnover. And then I kind of like got a little tired again. And then all of a sudden Northwestern was on the goal line again, or the other team was on the goal line again. And Xander Mueller once again made 2 stops on the goal line to stop them on downs.
Yeah.
So they stopped on 4 downs. So 2 goal line stands. The other team got 0 points because Xander Mueller was a rock star and was in, it was like he knew what the plays were, kind of. Yeah. Because he explodes, man. When he sees where that play is going, he just gets there.
Yep.
And there's no getting in his way. So having him back, man, is a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't realize he would be back. That's a huge deal for Northwestern bringing him back.
Yep. Yeah, I feel really good about them defensively. The only thing we need to see is their secondary improve. They were getting picked apart from time to time. I feel pretty solid actually about their linebacking core and their defensive line overall. But I just got to see some improvement in the secondary there, and I think it's possible. I think that Braun will be able to get them to be better than last year. To be honest, I think their defense overall could be better than last year.
Yeah, well, they have an experienced safety duo with 6-year team captain Coco Azama, along with junior Devin Turner, who's back for another year, and then Teron Johnson's the Wildcats' best corner. And on the other side, they're not as proven, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know what it's going to look like in the nickel, less necessarily. That's what I'm worried about with this defense. I think they'll actually be pretty okay stopping the run. But is this a defense that's going to be able to stop a competent passing game?
Yeah.
I think that's my question, if I have a question about it.
Sure.
And then, yeah. And what's the depth like past Xander Mueller at linebacker? Like if guys like Mac Uline or Kenny Soares have to play, like what are they're going to have to play? What are they going to look like? Are they going to be able to make plays next to him? They should be able to, but it is a question I do have. So I think Northwestern is going to be really solid. They have the pieces to have a nice defense. I wouldn't say a great defense, because I don't think they're going to be great rushing the passer. I think they're going to be fine.
Sure.
Right. But I don't think they're going to be really dynamic getting to the quarterback that way. So they're going to have to make their hay stopping the run and forcing 3rd and longs and getting off the field that way. I don't think this is going to be a team that forces a ton of turnovers. Maybe I'm wrong. Outside of Xander Mueller, I don't see a bunch of ball hawks out there who are gonna make a bunch of plays, who are gonna take the ball away. So I think it's gonna be about being really efficient and not making mistakes and doing all those things that Pat Fitzgerald defenses did for years and years and years under Mike Hankwitz. Yep. But then after Mike Hankwitz retired, the bottom fell out.
Yeah.
So can Northwestern get back to being that kind of scrappy, not even like a top 25 defense, but like a scrappy top 50 kind of defense?
Sure.
a team that's competitive, even if they get exposed at times?
I personally think it's possible. I think again, this team is going to be better than what people are giving them credit for. I think at this time, I don't expect a lot of wins, but I definitely think that they're going to be solid in certain places where they could be dangerous.
Yes. One other thing I gotta talk about:
Mhm.
kicker Jack Olson was decent last year, going 14 for 19. Could be a little better, but was still pretty very good. But Hunter Renner, man, punting 38.6 yards on 70 punts last year.
Mm.
That was the worst in the Big Ten.
Wow, worse than Mark Crawford. Okay, all right.
Not just worse, John,
I know.
significantly worse.
Yeah, yeah,
Crawford actually had his best year last year. He was kind of in the middle,
he did.
but he's still not great. Like, don't get me wrong. He's not going to flip the field and like be awesome.
Yeah,
But this guy is rough.
yeah.
They say he's a good directional punter, which means his punts don't go that high, so it's easier to aim them, is what they mean.
Nice, great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, like, I worry about the punting situation. I think when you are going back and forth, especially if you need your defense. If your defense, you need them to keep coming through and making plays.
hmm
But when your offense comes off the field, you're not taking advantage by flipping the field at all. I think that could be a problem for Northwestern at times. And dude, Mike Wright, he does not scream impressive Big Ten level starter to me. He can run a bit, and I think that's going to be a good skill, and I think they're going to make hay with that. But this isn't the FCS. They can't ride that the whole way. It's not going to work that way. And can he throw the ball accurately enough to make it in this league? I'm genuinely not sure. He is a career 56.5% passer, which gives me a lot of pause because he's had a lot of experience. So we've seen the best of him and the worst of him. And he had his best season, 60% passing, was the COVID year, which we can pretty much throw out for everybody. And even then, it was, 60%. It wasn't great. But 60% I think they would take. 56.5%, that's rough. That's a lot of punts.
Yeah.
It's a lot of punts if you're completing passes at that kind of rate.
Yep.
Also, that offensive line gave up the third most sacks among Power 4 teams last year. So I'm just wondering if that continues and if Mike Wright is just going to be running for his life out there.
Well, I think he will be. I think that's partly why they brought him in with this offense, is because they might know that they're going to need somebody who can run and be mobile, because he's going to have to run. And so I think that's partly why he got the job. And we'll see what happens. Hopefully they can scheme something up where that's going to work in their favor. But obviously I don't think it's sustainable throughout an entire season, but it might work here and there.
Yeah, I mean, I think having that dual threat dimension will open things up. Do they have a running back who's good enough to capitalize off the fact that the defense has to key somebody on the quarterback?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Do you have a running back who can make the defense pay the price for that? I don't know if Northwestern does.
Yeah, I had high hopes for Cam Porter years ago. I thought he was going to be a lot better than what he turned out to be. I know he got hurt and he just was never the same. So
he does seem like a guy who just kind of never got all the way better after the injury.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right, should we play the schedule game?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Northwestern Wildcats. We've got them starting out. Hosting Miami of Ohio. A team that went 11-3 and won the MAC last year, and has a ton of guys back, and has Chuck Martin back once again, the best coach probably in the MAC. This is a really tough first game because you absolutely have to win this game if you're Northwestern. But this is like opening up against Fresno State or something.
Yeah.
You're opening up against a team that can do damage, a team that can throw the ball, a team that if your defense is not on point, they can pick you apart. I think the Gabbert, the other Gabbert, like the little Gabbert brother, is back for like a 7th year.
Really?
I think so.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that, but I thought I saw that. So
Okay.
like that's, if he's back, he can play. We know he can play.
Yeah, we do.
So that's rough. Okay, then you host Duke. And like Duke, the good news is Duke has a new coaching staff, right? The bad news is that Manny Diaz talked Malik Murphy into transferring from Texas, where he was the backup, to Quinn Ewers, where he was the backup over Arch Manning, to come over and bring his game there. So he can do some things. He's a freak athlete.
Yep.
Like freaky kind of dude. I think they're gonna be a unique challenge. It's a game Northwestern could totally win that game, but it's not a sure thing by any means.
No.
All right. Then we got Eastern Illinois, who again, man, they went 8-3 last year. Like, these are not bad programs. Like, they're going to win. Northwestern's going to win this game, but they don't have, this is a tough schedule.
It is.
All right. Then we've got at Washington. So that's a very winnable game.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana.
Yep.
That's a winnable game. At Maryland, winnable game. Then you've got Wisconsin and then at Iowa. So those are tough games. At Purdue, it's a winnable game. Then they've got Ohio State at Wrigley Field. And if you don't think the Buckeyes are going to have most of the fans there, then I've got a bridge to sell you just off a Hennepin. You're going to love it. It's going to be great. It'll serve all of your needs getting across to the downtown. That's rough. Then they go to Michigan. And they finish off with the rivalry game against Illinois once again at Wrigley Field. And at least Illinois also doesn't have the best fan base. So, like, that probably won't be as intimidating an atmosphere to play in as it's going to be for that Ohio State game. It's good that they have the other home games on the lake. It's a workable schedule, John, but it gets tough after the first half.
Well, and here's the thing that I'm going to give Northwestern as a little bit of an edge of playing at home and having a mobile quarterback who's going to be running the ball a lot is this new stadium. That's right on the lake. I think it's going to throw some teams for a loop. I think it's going to be a little tough. Frankly, I think Wisconsin could have some trouble with like their new air raid offense. Could be problematic. Right. Not saying that Wisconsin's going to lose. I'm just saying that it could be problematic. And and unfortunately, they're playing at Wrigley Field in some of those other games. Which again, ban all football games on baseball fields, please. I don't care who it is. Like,
it's so bad. Yeah, it's just terrible.
But that's beside the point. But I think so. To me, that gives them a little bit of you could give them a little bit of an edge for that. But we're gonna see. I'm not sure how much. But that at least got something going for them there.
Here's what I think: if you're gonna think about making a bowl game, you got to beat Miami of Ohio to start the year.
Yep.
And then at Washington, Indiana, at Maryland, at Purdue, I think you got to win 2 of those games.
Yeah.
Because then you got 5 wins going into that Illinois game.
Yep.
And I think you have a shot against Illinois.
Yeah.
I think you have a real shot against Illinois.
Yep.
I would, if I had to pick that game right now, I would probably pick the Illini.
Yeah.
But we have no idea where those teams will be by that point in the year.
It's true.
And I think it'll be a close, hard-fought game, as that game almost always is,
No, I agree. I think there is a road to 6 wins here. There is. But it is hard.
Really hard.
Really tough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. I mean,
you got to get those wins early. You got to get the wins early, because if you're 3-3 after 6 games, I don't think you're getting 3 down the stretch. I just don't.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm with you. Yeah. It's a tough season, man, for Northwestern, that's for sure.
Maybe. But it's
Well,
David Braun. It's Dave. I mean, are
yeah.
we really going to act like we're surprised if they come back and go 7-5 and just like brush their shoulder off and say, yeah,
no.
we got this. We got it.
If that happens, I'm gonna be like, yeah, of course it did. Yeah. I mean, it's Northwestern. Like it doesn't
Like,
matter.
I'm not going to pick it to happen, but I don't
No.
think it's out of the realm of, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, you don't. There is something going on in that football program, and I don't know what it is. I wish
Yeah.
we had some of that. That'd be great. So yeah, it wouldn't. No, if that did happen, if they somehow were able to win 7 games, I would be like, yeah, okay, well, yeah, that figures. It's Northwestern, so of course.
Yeah.
Um,
But they could also go like 3-9 or 4-8, and I wouldn't be that surprised.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you.
So it'll be a really interesting season. I think Northwestern is a high variance team.
Yep.
All right. Should we move on?
Let's do it.
Let's talk about the Michigan State Spartans. So for Michigan State, we have no contributor. So we have had a Michigan State contributor in the past, but they no longer have the time, which is fair, to contribute to the podcast. So if you're a Michigan State fan out there and you want to contribute to the pod, hit us up on Twitter.
Yep.
Or send us an email or something.
Yep.
And we would be happy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say at We Live for B1G Sat, or you can hit up Mike at Alibaba26 or me at Norwegian Gopher.
Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, hit us up because we would love to have a Michigan State fan. There are 2 teams we don't have contributors for still, just 2. So that's pretty good. We're 16 for 18, John. We're batting well, but we will talk about these teams even though we don't have contributors because we are determined at We Live for Saturday to talk about all 18 Big Ten teams because they're all important.
That's right.
All right. So Michigan State, Jonathan Smith is in a full rebuild, John.
Yes.
What he accomplished at a school like Oregon State with very limited resources compared to other places is borderline incredible.
Yeah.
So I think Jonathan Smith will win at Michigan State. The question is, how long will it take after so many key pieces were lost in the transfer portal? Can they compete this fall, or is it going to take a year or maybe even 2 years for them to be a real threat? So let's talk offense and then defense and special teams, and then we can talk overall thoughts.
Sure.
So offense, it was early in spring ball when Smith more or less stated openly that Oregon State transfer Aiden Childs is going to be his QB this year. Childs played 9 games as a true frosh last year for the Beavers. He has legit dual threat talent, which is hard to find. There are not a ton of guys who can both run and throw the ball at a high level. And he showed flashes of being able to do that. Backup is Tommy Schuster, who had a record-setting career at the University of North Dakota, John.
All right.
So that's a good backup to have, I'd say.
Yeah.
Running back, Nate Carter's back, and tight end Jack Velling is too. But they're going to need more than those 2 guys if they're going to move the ball. Carter had 800 yards last year behind a terrible offensive line. So he was good, but the offensive line was bad. Smith is really high on Carter this year. They also brought in UMass transfer Kayron Lynch Adams, who will split carries with Carter. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of a skill set he brings. I don't know as much about him. Beavers transfer Tanner Miller will play center. And then it's unclear if Sparty will be any better on the offensive line than they were last year. And that worries me a lot.
Yeah.
At wide receiver, there's a big opportunity for guys to step up. Montori Foster has been decent, but can he be great? They could use him to be great. And who else can make a big difference? Highly touted frosh Nick Marsh will play, apparently, along with Asante Brown, Jerron Glover, Isaiah Johnson, and Jalen Smith. Glover and Antonio Gates Jr. entered the portal, but later pulled out to come back. So can they make a difference? Antonio Gates Jr. has flashed at times. He's got the famous name. Can he do it consistently? That's my question for this offense. Defensively, we've got Joe Rossi comes over after putting up stellar numbers at Minnesota. They lost starting free safety Jaden Mangum to Michigan after the spring, which is a huge blow because they were counting on him a lot. But the Spartans returned versatile junior Malik Spencer at the other safety spot. Dylan Tatum is an interesting piece who has played cornerback, safety, and nickel. So where is his best spot? Joe Rossi probably needs to figure out what his best spot is and play him there more often than not. Chance Rucker's back after a rough Frosh season, and opposite him will be Charles Brantley at the corners. Sparty will be good at linebacker with returners Cal Halloway, Jordan Hall, Darius Snow, great name, along with Wisconsin transfer Jordan Turner. They have a few other players they portaled in who could contribute as well. The D-line was hurt badly when both starting defensive tackles, both of them, Simeon Barrow left for Miami and Derek Harmon left for Oregon. They both left in the transfer portal. They were their best players.
Yeah,
so
that's huge.
Having them leave really hurts. They do bring back 6th-year Maverick Hansen, Georgia Tech transfer Duquan Deuce, Oregon transfer Ben Roberts, and Nebraska transfer Ruquan Buckley. So again, hoping a lot of transfers can fit in and play well right away. And Sparty now employs a rush end with Joe Rossi, position in a 2-point stance on the weak side, who's expected to get to the quarterback on a regular basis. Chris Bogle and Jalen Thompson will work there. Special teams, they're set with a star kicker, Jonathan Kim, who went 4 of 7 on 50-plus yard attempts last year and was 9 of 11 inside the 50. So he could be a little more consistent, but was still very, very good last year. And then punter Ryan Eckley averaged 46.7 yards per punt, and his net punting was 41.8 yards for the 15th best in the country. And all I can say is must be nice.
Yep.
Must be nice. Must be cool. Flip the field like that after a 3 and out must be great. Thoughts, John? What do you think about this Michigan State team?
Again, there's some highly talented position or skill players here. I think that they have some, Aiden Childs, I think, is going to be really good. I am excited to see Nate Carter again. But again, if he doesn't have an offensive line that can open lanes for him, and then we're just running into the same issues as we did last year. Because I do think if he is given space, he is insanely dangerous.
Yeah, he's good. He's a good player.
Yeah. So, and maybe with the ability of Aiden Childs, having the ability to use his legs a little bit more, that could help out a little bit here too. So we'll see. There's high expectations around both of them, obviously.
Yep.
The one I'm really looking at is is Jack Velling. He's the truth, man. I think he's for real. I think he's expected to be an all Big Ten performer. He's definitely going to be dangerous. They're going to need him to replace who was it again? Who was their main target? Malik All or crap?
Oh no!
Shoot, I'm just totally blanking.
We apologize.
Sorry about that. It was on the tip of my tongue, but there's definitely something there that I think he's going to be able to produce for them. And so I'm really going to be looking at that connection with him and Aiden Childs. But outside of that, offensively, I think the Childs and Montori Foster connection is going to be crucial for this team to succeed. They're going to have to stretch the field. I think he has the ability to do so. I think Glover is also, of course, like you mentioned, is going to be able to contribute. But it all comes down to that offensive line, man, as it does with every single team in the Big Ten. Can they protect the quarterback? Can they open lanes for the running back? And if they have the same problems as last year, which we saw, it could be disastrous. Yeah. Do I think, though, that the skill position players this year are better than last year? Yeah, I do. I think they're still going to be able to score points. But it's just, can they sustain it through an entire game? That's going to be the problem.
Yeah.
Offensively.
Yeah, I agree with you about Velling at tight end. I'm a little worried about wide receiver too, though. I don't feel like they have guys who have been consistent, including Montori Foster. I don't think he's been fully consistent either. He's been the best of what they have. But do they have... Here's what I ask every Big Ten team going into the year. Do you have a guy at receiver who can go get you 1,000 yards if healthy?
Yeah.
You have a guy with that skill set who can go do that, who can be the number one target in every game, who can have the defensive scheming to stop him and still produce. And I just don't know if Michigan State has that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think teams are going to be able to crowd the box. And I think it's going to make it a lot harder on that offensive line.
Yeah.
Because even when they block things up correctly, the defense, if the defense is crowding the box, there just might be too many guys to block.
Mhm.
So the question is, what can Aiden Childs do? Can he make a bunch of plays on his feet? And that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy who hasn't played that much and hasn't played at this level.
It's true. Yeah, I think there is a ton of pressure, but what I do like, and by the way, it's Malik Carr. So
Malik
I
Carr, I can't
yes,
believe I
yes,
forgot that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think though that Jonathan Smith is keeping up some realistic expectations. He's not making any grand proclamations that this is going to be an amazing team. I think he's fully aware that this is going to be a process, that it's not going to happen in year one.
Yep.
And I think that's great. You know, I appreciate that from a coach's perspective of having some honesty and ability to be realistic about this kind of stuff. Now, he fully expects, I'm sure, for them to be, in contention, to be a college football playoff team from time to time, and I expect him to, him wanting them to get to that point
Right.
in the next
Yeah.
couple of years, maybe by next year, who knows? But I don't think this year that he's putting anything crazy. I think he'd be happy with a bowl game if that happens, but also I'm not sure he's even expecting that at this point. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I think there's a lot to come from this. It's always different. It's always tough with a brand new head coach, brand new system, even when they're that good, even when they are Jonathan Smith and Joe Rossi, and you've got a good team around you. It's tough.
I mean, Oregon State went 2-10 his first year,
Mhm.
and they won 8 games his first 2 years, I think.
Okay.
So they went 2-10, 4-8 then?
Yeah.
So it was rough. I remember the Gophers played them those
Yep.
years.
Yep.
And, and it was a beatdown, but they got better. They
Yes,
got
they
a
did.
lot better.
Yeah.
And to the point where they gave Oregon troubles
Mm-hmm.
the last couple of years he was there. And
Yep.
he beat Oregon one of
Mhm.
those years.
Yes, he did.
So, which is impressive. So I think Jonathan Smith is a great coach. I think he'll get it done at Michigan State. I think they'll get back to I don't think they'll ever have the consistency they had under D'Antonio, but they could hit the heights they hit under D'Antonio.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think so too. I'm really interested to see what Joe Rossi does here as well. I think they have a ton of transfers on the defensive line, so that is also could potentially also be problematic. And it's just going to take time for them to get their guys into this program.
Yeah, Joe Rossi, I think his thought is that if he can prove he can do it one other place besides Minnesota and have a top 10 defense there,
Mhm.
that he will get a head coaching job at the Power 5 level.
Yep.
I think that's what he thinks will happen.
Yep.
And so that's his belief, and that's why he made the move. And so we'll see if he can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Should be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Schedule game.
Yeah.
All right. Start out easy enough. Hosting FAU 4-8 last year. Perfect. Should get a win over the Owls. Should be all good. Then you got a game that's really important, in my opinion.
Yeah.
At Maryland in College Park. Maryland is a team that I think, that we've talked about as well, that we worry about them for some of the same reasons as Michigan State, the offensive line. So it could be two teams that are pretty good teams that both have somewhat deficient offensive lines, duking it out.
Mm-hmm.
And the team that wins that game, I think, is going to have a much better chance at bowl eligibility than the team that loses that game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a good test for both teams early on. As of right now, I would have to say Maryland just for their defense, but who knows if Jonathan Smith is really as good of a coach as everyone's hoping him to be. Maybe he can throw something together. Maybe Joe Rossi can make it happen too right away.
Yep, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go to play then they host Prairie View A&M, so that'll be an easy victory.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to Boston College. And Boston College, man, that's not a walk in the park.
Mm-hmm.
That's a team that's tough. They'll grind you. And they now have what's his name? Bill O'Brien left Ohio State as coordinator and is now their head coach.
Yep.
So he was a little bit of a homecoming for him. So they'll probably have a competent passing game you would think.
Yeah.
That's a game that Michigan State should win, but if they don't win, that's going to be a clue where like, oh boy, what kind of year is this going to be for Michigan State? You know?
Yeah. Yep.
Then they got Ohio State. Then they go to Oregon.
Oof.
So that's a rough couple games right in the middle there.
It doesn't get any easier after the bye.
No, then they have a bye week, and then they go Iowa, and then at Michigan. So that's tough too. Those are 4 games in a row where they will be the underdog by, probably a decent amount in each of those games. I think, if Aiden Childs got really hot, and, Iowa sometimes is gettable in the secondary, even when they have a great defense. They're gettable in big plays, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you beat them. That's how you beat the consistency of an Iowa defense is you have to hit big passing plays over the top and stretch that defense out so they can't just crowd you and make your life miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something Michigan State can do? I think if they're going to win any of those 4 games, because they're not, I don't think you're beating Ohio State. I don't think you're going to Autzen and beating Oregon. I don't think you're going to the Big House and beating Michigan.
Yep.
So I think if you're going to win a game in that stretch, it's going to have to be the Iowa game, and you're going to have to come out and really play inspired ball to have a shot. Then it gets a little better. Then they have Indiana, at Illinois, Purdue, and they end the year against Rutgers. So those are all winnable games.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Mm-hmm.
I would not, I would take Sparty right now. I would take them maybe against Purdue. I would probably favor the other teams in those games right now, but that doesn't mean that Michigan State can't win some of those games.
Yeah.
So if they're going to have a chance at a bowl, they got to go 3-0 in the out of conference. And then they have to, I think then they gotta, then they have to go get hot and go like 3 for 4 against Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers.
Yeah.
Which is going to be tough. That's going to be tough to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I think, Michigan State fans, it's a proud fan base for sure. I think this is, maybe a true rebuild year. And I think when your defensive tackles walked out the door, it'd be different if they had those D tackles, man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because even then with the weak offensive line, you could still be a tough enough defensive line that you could force a lot of punts and stuff like that. But I just think without those guys, I think that Michigan State's going to get run through a little bit up front.
Yeah, I agree. I think just be patient. Know you have a really good coach. They're going to build it into something solid. I really think it's a great hire. And
great hire. One of the best hires the last couple of years.
Absolutely. Yeah. Give it a year or two. And with what Michigan State has with NIL and all that stuff, I think they'll be just fine.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Should we move on to our last team, John?
Let's do it.
Move on to West Lafayette and the Purdue Boilermakers. So once again, like with Michigan State, we do not have a contributor. So if you want to contribute, please hit us up. John gave you that information before. Also, like and subscribe to the video if you're still there. Or if you just jumped here to do the Purdue part, please do that. We during the season, we come out with 2 episodes per week. So we'll give you Big Ten coverage on all 18 Big Ten teams throughout the whole season. Ryan Walters, John, said this, quote, "You look back to this time a year ago and where we are today, it's night and day. We're miles ahead of where we were a year ago." Close quote. So will that progress show up on the field this year? That's the big question for Purdue. Purdue went just 4-8 last year. The offense was inconsistent and the defense was the worst in the Big Ten, giving up 30 points per game last season. Woof. The biggest issues they have is that they lost their best offensive player and wide receiver Deion Burks to Oklahoma, and their best defensive player in defensive end Nick Scorton to Texas A&M. That's a really tough pill to swallow, and they lost most of the rest of their receivers also. So they're kind of starting over in a lot of ways.
Yep.
The good news on offense is that they have Hudson Card to build an offense around. He showed flashes of why he was a big-time recruit who originally went to Texas. He can make all the throws. He's a better athlete than you think he is. It's year 2 for Card, so you hope he can build on year 1 and show improvement. He's got a couple guys competing for the number 2 job, but nobody's pushing him. And then the true frosh Marcos Davila, who's a 4-star, and he's expected to be the post-Card future of the program. So Walters has his next guy in as well, which is always important. Purdue, once again, John, has back crazy legs Devin Mockabee at running back, having rushed for 1,779 yards the past 2 years. He's also good out of the backfield catching the ball. Purdue brought in Reggie Love from Illinois. Jaheim Merriweather is a frosh who has generated some buzz as well. And Purdue needs a ton of help at receiver because they didn't just lose Burks. They lost 6 scholarship receivers and their number 1 tight end, Garrett Miller, all entered the portal after the 2023 season. So that's a big yikes. Receiver Jamal Edrin is back after a fall camp injury cost him his 2023 season. He did big things at FAU, and they need him to produce like that at Purdue. He's 6'3" and presents a big target that's different than what else they have in the room. Then they have transfers CJ Smith from Georgia, Cam Brown, UCLA. Morissette will also play, and veteran Andrew Sawinski is back to do some things too. Max Clare is a legit tight end.
Yes, he is.
And George Burhennis is another young option. At O-line is an area where the Boilermakers kept their top players with 3 returning starters and multiple additions. 5th-year center Gus Hartwig is really good, and tackle Marcus Mabo and guard Mahamane Musa are juniors who are junior veteran anchors of the offensive line. Expect Corey Stewart from Ball State and DJ Wingfield from New Mexico to start at the tackle and guard spot, the other ones respectively. They brought in a few other transfers to compete as well. So Purdue should, John, theoretically be better on the offensive line this year. On defense, losing Nick Scordon really hurts. He led the Big Ten with 10 sacks last year. Yeah. They went to the portal and got Boston College transfer Sheeta Silla, CJ Madden from Georgia, and then they have a D3 transfer. So I'm curious to see how it goes with Jure Ojada from Franklin College. Will Height will start on the other edge, and Illinois transfer Calvin Smith will also compete there. Cole Brayard is the new stud and nose tackle. At the other defensive tackle, they're less proven. They're a little undersized there. Kidron Jennings does a reverse Abdul Carter as he switches from rush end to linebacker. So I'm fascinated to see how that goes. As a linebacker, he has to possess more schematic knowledge of the defense than a rush end does, but he's also going to play rush end on passing downs at times. So it'll be interesting to see how they use him and why they're moving him back to linebacker. I always kind of think if a guy's a good defensive end, don't make him do anything else. Like let him just get the quarterback and stop the run. But they feel like they can get more out of him somewhere else. So that'll be interesting to see if that's an experiment that works or not. They've got cornerback Nyland Green coming over from Georgia, and they hope he can play right away. Marcavius Brown transfers from Ole Miss, and he and Green will be a tandem on the outside. Kendrick Breedlove was at Ole Miss, Colorado, and now Purdue, where he hopes to start in the nickelback spot. And safety Dylan Thieneman was a freshman All-American last year and is a fantastic player.
Yes, he
Definitely
is.
A guy Purdue can build around. And Antonio Stevens had a bad knee injury years ago, but he's fine now and will start next to Thieneman. Special teams, Purdue made just 8 of 17 field goals last year. They're putting all the eggs in the basket of true frosh Spencer Porath to be an upgrade. So that's a lot of pressure to put on a true frosh, and you hope he's up to the challenge. The Boilermakers were last in the Big Ten in punting last year, and they brought in new punter and Mississippi State transfer Keenan Crimmins, but he averaged just 40.9 yards last season. So they brought in a new punter, but it's not necessarily much of an upgrade. I like Purdue more than I thought I would when I started doing my research. So maybe they are underrated, John, being picked to finish last in the league this year.
I think they could be. I think there's definitely potential. For me, it's definitely it's Hudson Card. I think that he's just for sure Like I think he's a gamer. I think he's an absolute gamer. I think he's dangerous in so many levels, more than what people give him credit for. He was really the only reason that offense was, I think, last year, other than Devin Maccabee, of course, was was able to look as good as they could at times. And I do think that they're going to be able to protect Card a little bit more this year. I think during the spring game, it just looked better. They looked more in sync. They looked together.
Right.
They looked like he wasn't running for his life the whole time. I just liked what I saw. I felt it was just more. I think it just has potential to be a overall better offensive line and unit that's going to be able to open some things up for Maccabee and also just be able to protect the quarterback. But the problem is, of course, is who is he going to throw to? I do think Max Clare is legit. I think
Yeah.
he's probably going to be better this year than what most people are expecting. He just looks the part. He really does.
Yeah, he can make plays.
For sure. So, but I don't know who else they're going to throw to. That's what I'm not entirely sure of at this point in time. We're going to have to see. It was a really tough loss losing Burks. And
Brutal loss.
yeah, so it's I don't know. I don't know what to
happens
make
when you're a basketball school sometimes.
It's yeah. And
Makes it harder. There's only so many NIL dollars to go around, and Purdue is trying to get back into that Final Four just like they were in last year.
Yeah, so there's definitely, it's true. No, it's true. And I as far as the running game goes, I mean, Maccabee is solid. We've seen him look fantastic. I'm not really sold on the Reggie Love thing. I mean, Reggie Love is fine, but I didn't think he was that great at Illinois.
No.
So I think Maccabee is going to be the one carrying that running back room again here. And hopefully he can stay healthy, because I don't think Reggie Love is the answer.
No, so, I don't think so either. And I think Maccabee is he's good enough to be a Big Ten starting running back, but just barely.
Yeah.
You know, he's not great. So, man, it's a lot of pressure on Hudson Card.
It is.
And
he had a lot last year too. And I don't know, man. I mean, thankfully we've seen him. Well, I mean, we've seen him, put it together. Like I've always said, I think he's a true gamer.
Yep.
I think he can be a freak on the field when he wants to be or when he needs to be. I just hope he doesn't have to be all the time. Hopefully he'll get a little bit of that pressure alleviated throughout the season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah. But defensively, defensively, all I got to say is, I mean, I'll just say, I think Karlaftis and Jenkins will be solid. And I mean, Jenkins, obviously he led the team with 15 and a half TFLs last year.
Yes.
And I do expect huge things from Dylan Thieneman.
Yes.
But he's going to need help, dude. He's really going to need help. He can't do it all by himself. And we've seen what happens when when there is just one guy back there. Even though he's a freak, you get burned. It can happen. I mean, that's what happened with us last year all the time.
Well, and when you have one guy back there who's by far the best guy, sometimes the defensive coordinator tries to get too cute too much and tries to set up interceptions, which can work and did work for us at times, but it also meant that we got burned deep at times.
Yep.
So I would expect, at least for us, to see, Minnesota play a little safer at safety last year, and Dylan Thieneman, with him being such a freak this year, how many is Ryan Walters going to want to take a bunch of chances with him because he's such a great athlete and try to jump routes and make plays? And if that happens, is it going to leave Purdue open on the back end?
Yeah. But they're going to have to play aggressive, man, to win some of these games like that. It's going to have to be part of their game plan, no matter what. So we'll see. It could serve them well at times, and then just totally burn them. And we'll see what happens. It's interesting but again, this team, yes, I'm expecting them them or UCLA to finish at the bottom of the Big Ten, but it doesn't mean that
they're still tough. They're still tough. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Even the teams that you might think we're down on, we're like, oh, this team's going to finish, not well. Even those teams are really good. There aren't any, it's like you said, the period of having bad teams in the Big Ten when you could just count on like Rutgers and Maryland being terrible or whatever, and Indiana, like you don't have, that's not a thing anymore.
Nope.
All these programs are competitive. All are well coached. All have elite resources, you know, and you're seeing that on the field, and you see that in the crazy upsets that happen.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Should we play the schedule game?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So perfect opener. Purdue starts against Indiana State. The Sycamores went 1-10 last year. FCS team. There you go. Run whatever you want. Then they have a bye in week 2, which is not great. You don't want that. You want your bye later in the year. Week 2 is a terrible time to have a bye, which sucks for them. But the only good news is it gives them 2 weeks to get ready to take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in West Lafayette. They're hosting them. So that's a huge game. You know, traditional Big Ten rival, Purdue and Notre Dame. It's a game that Notre Dame will be heavily favored in.
Yep.
Let's be real. Call it what it is. And Purdue has nothing expected of them, but they have 2 weeks to get ready, and nothing is expected of them. So maybe they can come out with a really good game plan and make Notre Dame sweat a little, and then maybe Notre Dame makes a couple of mistakes, and you got a chance.
It would make me so happy if that happened.
Oh, I'd laugh the whole season long.
Yeah.
Just the rest of the year, I'd be laughing out loud if Purdue beats Notre Dame. Can you imagine the hot seat that Marcus Freeman's going to be on if he loses?
Yeah. Yep.
If he loses that game to Purdue before Notre Dame's expected to make the college football playoff this year. If they lost that game to Purdue, that would be brutal for them.
Yep. Wow. I mean, they would drop it. They would drop in the polls so far.
Drop out.
Yeah.
Drop out. You'd have to that early in the year.
True.
Yeah. All right. So after Notre Dame, they go to Oregon State. Oregon State was a really good team until Jonathan Smith left and all their guys left. And now they're like a glorified Mountain West program. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So that's rough. I feel bad for Oregon State, but that is not a tough game anymore.
No, I think
that's a rebuilding Mountain West team at this point.
Yeah, Purdue should win that game.
Should win that game going away. Then the schedule gets really interesting. You start off Big Ten play against Nebraska at home. Then you go to Wisconsin. So Nebraska, I mean, they will definitely be underdogs in both of those games. But that's ones where you're going to want to, if you're Purdue, you're probably thinking that's where, if we're going to win, if we're going to get to 6 wins, we got to win one of those games.
Yep.
All right. Then you go to Illinois, and that's a must win if they're going to make a bowl game, because listen to this last 6 game or this next 4 games: Oregon, Northwestern, at Ohio State, Penn State. Northwestern, sure, that's a winnable game. But Oregon, at Ohio State, and Penn State, those are tough games.
Yep.
Those are tough games for where Purdue's at in the process right now.
Yeah.
This isn't a Jeff Brom team that's fully like realized. This is a team that's still rebuilding. So those are going to be tough ones. You're going to have to win that Northwestern game, because then your last 2 games are winnable at Sparty and at Indiana. But you have to go on the road for both of them is the only problem. So that kind of sucks that those are 2 really winnable games, but they're road games, not home games. Now, granted, when you go to Indiana, there's always, those schools are so close together. There's always a lot of the visiting fans. You see a lot of that, but it'll still be, largely a Hoosier crowd for sure. So I count up. So you got Indiana State, Oregon State, you win for sure. Notre Dame, I think you lose. Then it's a matter of, can you beat Nebraska or Illinois? Because I think Wisconsin, you have to go to Wisconsin is the problem.
Yeah, playing in Camp Randall as Purdue this year is just not. I don't think
they're ready for that. No.
Yeah.
So I feel like they got to beat Nebraska or Illinois for sure. Because that would be 3 games, and then oh man, I don't know. The more I look at this, the more I think 6 games seems tough.
I'm not really seeing it. You know, this is like this and like we talked about with UCLA as well. Like it's hard to see 6 wins here.
Yeah.
You know, it's not to say that upsets
It's a
can
tough
happen,
schedule for one.
but it's really hard. Yeah.
It's a really tough schedule. You get Notre Dame in the non-conference. And then in conference you get Ohio State, Penn State. You get Ohio State and Penn State. So yeah.
Well, and then you get
Oregon.
Yeah, like you get beat up like right in the middle
Yep.
and towards the end by Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State.
Yeah, that's rough.
And even though you have 2 what should be winnable games, you know, at the end of the season, you just went through a gauntlet, man.
Gauntlet.
That's
a good
tough.
way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say, man. I don't see many wins here. I can see a road to like 4, maybe 5, you know?
I think Purdue could be a better team this year and still win 4 or 5 games.
I think so too. That's
like
where I'm
I think they could be significantly better than they were last year and still win 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
Because we saw last year at times that Purdue, when they put it together, what they could do. But it's just a matter of, I think they really miss Deion Burks and Nick Scorton, man.
Yep.
I think when you lose your 2 best players, and they weren't just their best players, they were some of the best players in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Both those guys.
Yep.
And I just don't know if they have them replaced to the point, you know, do they have a running game, or is Hudson Card going to be running for his life again? Because if they can't run the ball, then Hudson Card is going to be running for his life.
Yeah.
So I really hope Purdue can run the ball a little bit. I hope that Devin Mockabee thing works this year. Because if it doesn't, then I don't know how they're going to manufacture points.
Yeah. I mean,
but it could work. It could work a lot better.
Well, because we've seen what Card can do when he is clicking. You know, it's just
he's good.
Who does he have to throw to? You know, and so that's what we're gonna have to find out. We're gonna have to wait and see.
Who does he have to throw to, and will he have enough time to do it for them to get open?
Yep. I'm expecting the offensive line to be better. So
it should be better. It should
be better. So I think he'll have the time, but to whom other than Max Clare? That's it.
Who's going to get open?
Yeah.
Who's the guy? Do they have a guy who can step up and be like, I can get you 1,000 yards?
Yeah.
Do they have that guy? Right now, I don't see him.
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody like Max Clare at tight end could get you like 600, 700 yards.
Yeah, he'll be reliable.
But a receiver, you need a guy who can step up and be that number 1 receiver. And Purdue, we have not seen that guy emerge yet.
Yeah.
So I hope he does.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would make them a much more dynamic team to watch this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, we did it.
John, we previewed all 18 Big Ten teams. So please, if you haven't seen our other episodes, go back and check out our other previews. They will be evergreen until 1 week from Wednesday, when the Big Ten, or 1 week from today, Thursday, when the Big Ten season kicks off with the Minnesota Gophers and the North Carolina Tar Heels right here in Minneapolis. So that's going to be really exciting. And then after that, everything we said in the preseason is meaningless. And we are into the grind of the season. But once we get into the season, we will be doing 2 shows per week. We will do a review of all the games that happen on Saturdays that we'll put out on Sundays. Mm-hmm. And then we'll do a preview early in the week to preview all the games coming on Saturday.
Yep. Yeah. And once again, if there are any Michigan State or Purdue fans out there who would like to contribute and help us out, we'd love to have you on board. Please contact us. If you want to find the podcast to anyone else out there, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. You can also find us on Twitter, where you can contact us at We Live for B1GSat. You can talk to Mike here at Alibaba26, me, John, at Norwegian Gopher. You can also email us at We Live for Saturday, b1g@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, if you are still here 95 minutes into this podcast, you are awesome, and we appreciate you. So thank you for listening, and we will see you in just a couple days to preview week 1. John, we're going to be back.
Crazy. It's
in
happening.
a couple days, just a couple days to preview week 1. So get excited for that. Come check us out, subscribe to the podcast, do all that good stuff. We love you people, and we'll see you next time.